I never thought a single text message could unravel 23 years of marriage. But that Thursday night, standing in my own kitchen, I learned exactly how quiet betrayal can be until it isn't. My name is Maren Whitlock. I'm 47, a mother, a wife who believed in the life we'd built in suburban Michigan, until the phone lit up, until she showed up at my door. This is the story of how I stayed calm while everything burned, and how I made sure the truth burned brighter. I was wiping down the counter when it happened. The kitchen smelled of roasted chicken and lemon cleaner, the way it always did on Thursday nights. Upstairs, the shower ran steadily, Ellis taking his usual long hot shower after work. I'd just set the last plate in the rack when his phone, left casually on the granite island, lit up with a soft buzz. Last night meant everything to me. My hand froze mid-wipe. Simple black text, from an unknown number. My heart didn't race at first. It just stopped, then thudded hard, twice, like it was catching up to reality. I don't snoop. I never have. But something inside me shifted. I picked up the phone. His passcode was still our wedding date. I opened the thread, just enough to see, just enough to know. My thumbs moved before my brain could stop them. "Come over. She's gone," I typed, and hit send. The regret hit instantly, but the message was already delivered. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it and sat on the bar stool, hands folded, waiting. 12 minutes. I counted every one. The doorbell rang. Colette Vance stood on my porch, 49. Elegant, a tailored coat, subtle makeup that said she hadn't come by accident. Her face paled when she saw me. "Where is Ellis?" she asked. "Come in," I said. She hesitated only a second before crossing the threshold, her perfume filling the entryway, expensive and floral, and somehow familiar in a way that turned my stomach. Ellis came down a few minutes later, hair still damp, and froze on the landing. His eyes moved between us. Not shock exactly, just a flicker of something calculated. Surprised that I was there to witness it. "Maren," he started. I didn't answer him. I watched Colette instead, the silent glance passing between them. They weren't scrambling for excuses. They'd rehearsed this moment already, in their minds at least. This wasn't a one-time mistake. It had been building quietly, right under my roof. "How long have you both been waiting for me to step aside?" I asked. My voice stayed even, almost gentle. Neither of them answered right away. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked louder in the silence. Colette started toward the door, and as she moved past the side table, an envelope slipped from her coat pocket. She didn't notice. I waited until she'd left, then bent down and picked it up. Inside was a printed listing for a lakeside condo, registered to some unfamiliar company. Ellis stood there, still damp from the shower that had started all of this. For the first time in years, I looked at my husband and didn't recognize the man staring back. He tried the reasonable voice next. "This isn't what you think. Colette and I have just been talking. We should sit down, talk like adults." "Adults," I repeated. They'd clearly coordinated their lines. "How long have you two been preparing for this conversation?" I asked. He hesitated. "A few months. It just happened. Work turned into more. But our marriage has been dead a while, Maren, you know that." I thought of the late nights blamed on projects, the weekends Colette had shown up at church events asking the right questions about our family. "She knows things," I said quietly. "Where I visit my mother. That Briar's dorm is 2 hours away." This wasn't stolen moments. Colette had been invited into the edges of my own life. "Go to bed, Ellis," I said finally. "We both need rest." He searched my face for the explosion he expected. When it didn't come, he climbed the stairs slowly. I sat alone with the envelope, a property listing, deposit notes, a future being built without me. The thought should have broken me. Instead, something cold and clear settled in its place. The next morning, after Ellis left for work, I opened our shared finances on the kitchen laptop. Small transfers, wired regularly to something called Vance Harbor Consulting, a tax consultant Colette had recommended, Ellis had said once, months ago. Now I traced it directly back to her, her signature on the filings, her address. Joint account money, quietly diverted. In his home office, I found a folder. Printouts of the same lakeside condo. A draft separation agreement, dated weeks earlier. A list of our assets, already divided, in Ellis's handwriting. And a note that stopped me cold. "Maren will resist at first. Wait until Briar leaves for school. Our daughter's move-in date. This wasn't only an affair. It was a calculated exit, timed so I'd be left with nothing but confusion. I photographed every page and put it all back exactly as I'd found it. I called Nadine Mercer, an old friend who'd survived her own divorce years earlier. I told her everything. No tears, just facts. Men like Ellis don't fear tears, she said. They fear paperwork. Don't confront him yet. Document everything. And whatever you do, don't leave the house. She gave me a name, Hollis Reed, a family lawyer downtown. Tell him I sent you. He doesn't do drama. He does strategy. That afternoon, Briar called from school, her voice light, unaware. Dad texted me yesterday, she said. Asked if I'd be upset if Mom moved closer to Grandma. Said you two might need space. The floor tilted under me. Ellis was already rewriting our story for our children, making himself the reasonable one, and me the one drifting away. We're figuring some things out, honey, I said, keeping my voice steady. Focus on your studies. I met Hollis the next afternoon. Do you want revenge, he asked, after reviewing the photos, or do you want protection? Both, I said, but protection first. He nodded. The transfers to Vance Harbor could work in your favor during division of assets. The premeditation, the note about waiting for your daughter, shows intent. That strengthens your position. Back up everything. Stay in the house. Don't sign anything. Let him think you're still processing. The more he relaxes, the more he'll slip. For the following week, Ellis performed remorse beautifully. Flowers on the counter, quiet apologies, careful mentions of a marriage-gone routine, that Colette had simply understood something he wasn't getting at home. I accepted it all with practiced calm, giving him nothing to work with, no argument to rehearse against. Each night I added new observations to my private notes, the way he checked his phone when he thought I wasn't looking, his sudden interest in my mother's health. Briar called again a few days later, more uncertain this time. Dad made it sound like moving to Grandma's was your idea, she said. Mom, is something wrong? The manipulation stung, but I kept my voice warm. We're working through some grown-up things, sweetheart. Don't worry. 1 week later, the anniversary dinner for Ellis's manufacturing company arrived. 30 years, celebrated at the local country club with colleagues, old friends, and both our children home for the weekend. We need to show a united front, Ellis said that morning, adjusting his tie. I agreed quietly. I already knew this was the room Hollis had spoken about. In my clutch, I carried a thin envelope, the bank transfers, the condo listing, and a scanned copy of that handwritten note. Not everything, just enough. The ballroom glittered, chandeliers, autumn centerpieces, colleagues and church friends filling every table. Colette was there too, officially as an event consultant, in a deep burgundy dress. Our eyes met once across the room. I returned her polite nod without warmth. When dinner was served, Ellis took the stage. 30 years, he began, voice warm through the microphone. I couldn't have done it without the support of my incredible wife, Marin. Applause rippled through the room. Sometimes life asks us to make brave changes, he continued, to step into new chapters with grace and honesty. I saw a few knowing glances pass between guests. The story was already spreading quietly, tastefully. The Whitlocks were separating amicably, mature adults making civilized choices. He was positioning himself as the thoughtful one, moving forward. He stepped back from the microphone to more applause. I stood. The chair scraped softly. Conversations dipped. Ellis paused mid-step, surprise flickering across his face. I walked to the front, envelope in hand, and stopped at the microphone. Before my husband talks about brave changes, I said, my voice clear and calm, I think everyone here should know who has really been planning them. Gasps rippled as I lifted the first page. Bank records. Joint funds transferred to a company tied to Colette Vance. Another page. A lakeside condo they've been viewing together. And this note, in my husband's handwriting. Marin will resist at first. Wait until Briar leaves for school. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The document spoke clearly enough. Marin is emotional right now, Ellis said, forcing a concerned smile. This is a private matter. No, Ellis, I answered evenly. I was emotional last week. Tonight, I'm documented. Colette slipped toward the side exit. Nadine, who'd come as my guest, stepped smoothly into her path. Leaving won't make the paperwork disappear, she said quietly. Colette froze, glancing back at Ellis, who was too busy trying to salvage his own moment to help her. Nolan stood at our table. Dad, is this true? Briar, tears slipping down her cheeks, looked at her father. You made it sound like it was her idea. For the first time, their coordinated story had no response prepared. I don't need anyone here to choose sides, I told the room. I just need you all to remember the truth. The rest will be handled privately, the way it should have been from the start. Ellis reached the podium, his knuckles white on the microphone. Marin, this is humiliating for all of us. I looked at him directly. Humiliating is finding out your husband and his mistress have been planning your exit while you're still sleeping in the same house. This is just clarity. Nolan drove Briar and me home. The car was quiet except for the hum of the engine and the occasional sniffle from the back seat. At home, I made tea, and the three of us sat together without rehashing every detail. Nolan apologized for not seeing the signs earlier. Briar hugged me tightly. "You didn't embarrass us, Mom," she whispered. He did. In the weeks that followed, Ellis sent text after text asking to talk. Colette emailed a long, carefully worded apology that somehow still cast her as the misunderstood party. I read them once, then forwarded the relevant ones to Hollis. We began the formal process: financial protections, petitions for temporary arrangements. "You don't have to destroy him," Hollis said. "Just make sure the truth does its work." Ellis moved out 2 weeks later. He looked older, loading the last box into his car. Part of me still mourned the man I'd married. I no longer mourned the version he had become. Standing at the kitchen window one quiet evening, the house finally felt like mine again, not because of some victory, but because of honesty. The counter where his phone had lit up, the front door where Colette had stood expecting an empty house, they all felt smaller now, less powerful. I had stopped carrying the need to make myself small to keep the peace. Sometimes the doorbell doesn't bring the person who ruins your life. Sometimes it brings the truth you were finally ready to face. If you had found that note in your own husband's handwriting, would you have confronted him that same night, or would you have waited, quietly, the way I did, until the proof was impossible for anyone to deny?